All right, in this video, we're going to talk a little bit more about direct variation and its forms, and then look at a couple examples. So, direct variation, we know it's y-intercept of 0, 0, has a slope, it's constant increase or decrease. It will always take the form m of x or f of x or k of x or something like that equals k times x. So whatever your function or your y value is or your output, whatever that function looks like, it is always going to be k times x, where k is a constant of variation. All right, that's an important thing to remember, the constant of variation. In direct, what this constant of variation means is it's the slope. So the general equation might look like m of x equals k times x, or f of x equals k times x, or y equals k times x. But specifically, you'll notice that we now have a number in place of that k, a 5 or a -2, or y equals 10x, something in place of that constant of variation. So always we want to start with that general form and then work towards the specifics. So let's look at a question like number 5. You are told that f of x varies directly with x. All right, so we know this is direct variation already. And the ordered pair 5, -15 is on the graph. Well, if I know there's an ordered pair of 5, -15, that's giving me an input and an output, or an x and an f of x value, or an x and a y value. So our general equation we know is that f of x, in this case, because that's what they told us, is equal to k times x. Our goal is to figure out, well, what's that k value? What's going to make that equation? And that's how we find out our specific equation. So if we start with that f of x equals some constant times x, and we need to figure out what is k here. That's our goal, figure out what is k. Well, we have some numbers to help us. We have an x value of 5 and an f of x value of -15 that we can use in our equation. I'm going to put that 5 in for x and that -15 in for f of x, and gives us the specific example of when -15 is the output, some k value times our input of 5 is going to make that -15. So now we just want to solve for k. So we're looking at -15 equals 5 times k. Let's divide both sides by 5, and we get that k is equal to -3. Now, we're tempted to be done here, but we're not done yet, right? Just because we have a k value doesn't mean we're done. We need to write the specific equation. Look at those instructions. Write the specific equation. So let's go back to, well, we have f of x. We need to figure out what is k. We just did. That's -3 times x. Now we're done. Here's our final answer. We know that our equation is f of x equals -3 times x, with our constant of variation being -3. So now a question like letter C, find f of x if x equals 8. Well, we know we'll just plug -8 into our equation. So we've got f of x equals -3x. Let's put that 8 right in there. And we know that f of 8, in this case, would be -3 times 8, or -24. So that tells me that technically the point 8, -24 is on that graph, but the real answer that they care about is the output, or -24. Now we're also going to see what this looks like in a little bit of an application problem. So we're going to scroll down here and look at number 6. The number of tablespoons of sea salt, S, in a saltwater fish tank varies directly, that's important there, with the number of gallons of water, G, in the tank. So this first thing listed, this is going to be kind of like our y value. And then this second thing listed, the thing that it varies directly with, is going to be kind of like our x value. So pet shop owner recommends adding 100 tablespoons of sea salt to a 20-gallon tank. So here they're giving us an ordered pair. They're giving us a point on this graph. So just like the problem before, they're giving us that x comma y that we can use in order to find that constant of variation. So letter A says, write a direct variation equation representing the amount of sea salt, S, so I'll do that, S, in terms of gallons. Well, we know it's S equals our constant of variation, K, times the number of gallons, G. And that K value is what we need to figure out. So now I'm going to look and see, can I figure out what K is using a G and an S value? Well, if our ordered pair is G comma S, we know that 20 gallons gave us 100 tablespoons of sea salt. I'm going to use that as my G value and my S value in order to find the equation. So I'm going to put that in. For S, I'll do 100 equals some K value times G, or 20. Divide both sides by 20 here. And I get that K is equal to 5. Remember, you're not done yet. No way. We need to write the equation. So that direct variation equation is going to be S equals, instead of K, I just found it's 5G. S equals 5G, because I found that constant of variation to be K. So how many tablespoons of salt in letter B, S, should be added to a 30-gallon saltwater fish tank? Well, let's use our equation. If S equals 5G, we know G is 30, so we're going to write that S equals 5 times 30, or S should equal 5 times 30. 5 times 3 is 15, so we'll call that 150 with that 0 on there. 150 tablespoons of salt. And that is our final answer right there. All right, so figuring out what's that constant of variation, K, and then putting it back into my original general equation. Your goal is to do number 7 here, either independently or with a partner, and that's that.